So how has Steve Cooper turned around Nottingham Forest, and could Nottingham Forest get themselves in the playoffs this season? That's what we're going to be diving into in this video. 5 clips we'll be having a look that showcase just what Steve Cooper has done. If you are new to the League of 72, welcome. This is a beautiful place, and a place where you should just have a quick look down to the right and you'll see a red button. Hit that button, subscribe to the League of 72 for all the best EFL content. Let's get straight into this with the man himself, Steve Cooper. So the first managerial casualty of the season in the Championship was, of course, Chris Hughton. Steve Cooper came in, and the juxtaposition between the player, Steve Cooper, and the manager, Steve Cooper, couldn't be much more different. 41 years of age, Steve Cooper's footballing journey is a very, very rare one we don't really see in elite level football. As a player, he was signed by Wrexham as a teenager, but didn't play a single game, didn't make a single appearance for Wrexham. He then played semi-professional football in Wales, playing for the likes of Real and Bangor City, amongst others. It's fair to say his playing career wasn't anything to take note of, but it's been a linear rise when it comes to his managerial career. Starting off as a youth team coach at Wrexham, he then stepped into senior management and had 5 years at the Liverpool Academy, helping the likes of Raheem Sterling and Trent Alexander-Arnold make their way into the first team at Liverpool. He then moved, of course, to England, which is where we started to see him on the world stage, and won on the world stage as well, of course, winning the Under-17 World Cup with England. And so many of those players from the England Under-16s and 17s that he managed have now gone on to do great things, and he's been able to utilise that himself as a manager. Having that time with these young, exciting players has allowed him to kind of work towards what modern football has become: high energy, high coached football. And when you look at Swansea, his first managerial post, back-to-back playoff finishes with a team that was financially restricted in a big way. He was able to use that pulling power with those youngsters and utilising the loan market to achieve what he did at Swansea. So Steve Cooper came into the job at Nottingham Forest, having taken that leave from Swansea City, and with Nottingham Forest having secured 1 point from the opening 7 matches, which was a big surprise because Chris Hughton has such a great reputation in the game. What was the problem then before Steve Cooper came into the job? Well, they lacked a plan B. If they conceded, they were struggling to score goals, and they almost had too much structure in terms of the positional play and not enough freedom in terms of the attacking side of the game. Going forward, it felt really laboured, it lacked impetus, and essentially you were hoping that Brennan Johnson or Zinkernagel were going to offer up some kind of mercurial brilliance to get a victory for Nottingham Forest. Let me show you a couple of examples of possibly a kind of an insight into the instructions that were being given, because there were a lack of shooting opportunities, and with the pressure that built from that, I think there was also a case of low XG shots being taken by players because they weren't sure what else to do. So here is a game against Bournemouth. They win the ball, Nottingham Forest, and then they get the ball. Zinkernagel gets the ball in a lovely area of space. From this point onward, you would expect, I don't know, some kind of pattern of play, overlapping, a pass through, some kind of options. But because there hadn't been, I think the forward players were essentially left alone to try and create something off the cuff. Zinkernagel didn't really know what to do with himself and just went for the low XG shot, and it was very easy for Bournemouth to deal with. This second clip against Cardiff reinforces this thought. Nottingham Forest, defensively pretty sound, win the ball, and then they've got to break. This is another great example of playing in transition. With the bodies that are there, you would expect free-flowing movement in transition to help create something. And if you have a look at Jed Spence in this scenario, he starts off in his own penalty box and he does make that bursting run to help out Lolly, who's over here. But as it plays on, he doesn't utilise the underlapping run from him. He goes for a low XG shot once again, and it just reinforces the point that there wasn't that kind of flowing structure and understanding of where players are going to be and how they want to play. You can see Jed Spence there pointing, wanting the ball there. Lolly doesn't really know what to do and makes the wrong decision with 3 players in the box, and Jed Spence making a great run for the team. Instead, he goes for a shot, and you can see the look on his face. He's not certain about what he wants to do. Another issue under Houghton was the sort of rigidity and structure of them as well. He loved that 4-2-3-1, and we'll speak about that plan B. Structurally, there were no changes in-game or from game to game. It was too structured. Players were given their zones and they had to stay in their zones, and that makes it stale at times, and it makes it a lot easier for the opposition to defend against. That fluidity, that interchanging of positions, that rotation of positions was something that was so sorely needed to unlock defences and to stop this hit and hope scenario that had grown into life. So what did Steve Cooper come in and do to turn it around? Well, when he took charge of his first game against Millwall on the 25th of the 9th, it was clear for him that the best way for Forest to kind of overcome their problems was to abandon this 4-2-3-1 and move towards a 3-4-2-1 or a 3-4-1-2, depending on the tactical changes that were needed within the match. This would allow the team to have width with those wing backs, but also allowing the best players, the most exciting attacking players, to pick up the ball in central areas, which led to faster interplay. Often the problem under Houghton was the fact that the best players had the ball, but they had it in safe areas for the opposition, wide and in front of them. This means that Cooper has picked up 27 points from a possible 42 at the time of recording, and the positive thing about that is that the average points so far, 1.6 points per game. If this continues on the current trend, Forest will get themselves to 68 points. Now, generally, to get yourselves in the playoffs, you need about 70 points, but it is so competitive this season that you never know. 68 could be enough, and if Forest can do even better, of course, they can get into that bracket of 70 points and more. And at the moment, Steve Cooper's Forest side, since he's been the manager, sit third in the form table. Having three runners in central areas allows Forest to play inside forwards that are both sort of central but also are able to work the channel and also give some support to either Taylor or Graben, who are the central striker. The other essential thing is that these overloads in central areas are so important when you're playing a back three because it offers up so much space and opportunity in transition to the wing backs. When we're looking at Nottingham Forest possibly getting into the playoffs, Brennan Johnson is going to be such an integral part, and Steve Cooper's new formation has offered up a role that's really suited Brennan Johnson. Under Chris Houghton, who's playing on the left-hand side or the right-hand side or as a number 10, but because of that rigidity that we've spoken about, he didn't have that ability to kind of move from different places, have that freedom and that license. Under Steve Cooper, he's playing as that inside forward, which is the best role for him. We saw that when he was on loan at Lincoln last season, and you've seen the results of it. So far this season, in 21 starts, he's got 9 goal contributions, 4 goals and 5 assists. Under Steve Cooper, 7 of those goal contributions have revealed themselves to us. And what that says to me is that going into the new year, as this team continues to be coached by Steve Cooper, Brennan Johnson is only going to have a greater influence on this Forest side. So this is halfway through a clip. I'm going to go back in just a second, but what I want to show you is how narrow the pitch kind of becomes in terms of the marking and the sucking in, I guess, of Nottingham Forest through the formation. By playing that 3-4-1-2 or 3-4-2-1, what happens is you create a lot of space for the wing backs. You can see it here, you can see it here. We're going to touch on Jed Spence, of course, because he's been absolutely electric for them in this system. But let's start off with Max Lowe. And also, importantly, what happens here is when you have so many players in the central areas, it means that you narrow down the opposition's marking, which creates space. Now, this is a simple move, but if we go back to the start of this clip, what you can see here is by creating that narrowness, you make it very difficult and you create space if you can play the right pass at the right time. And that's exactly what Nottingham Forest do here. They narrow up the pitch because of those players, those inside forwards and those midfielders. And then with one ball, because of that narrowness of Blackpool, because they're concerned about these players here in these half spaces, all that space is provided to Max Lowe. And let's just see it run and see what happens. It's a great touch, but the space is there. You've got a player in the box as well, because you've got players through the middle of the pitch and in transition, and then you've got yourself a goal for Brennan Johnson. This is just a 3-pass move, but that central overload allows the space out wide, which is what Steve Cooper's men are utilising so brilliantly at the moment. So here is another perfect example of this. Notice how the inside run of Brennan Johnson, coupled with the narrow, close together play of the forwards, causes the Birmingham defence to become narrow, almost subconsciously. Then you've got the quality and previously missing composure of Zinkernagel, which finds Jed Spence, who is lightning, and leaves Jeremy Bella for dead, despite Bella spotting the run pretty early on in the move. So here we go. We're going to play and look at them break in transition. And what I will do is, first of all, stop it there. This inside run from Brennan Johnson is fantastic. I'll go back and show you it again. But by doing that, it just sucks in a lot of the players. Let's just go back and show you that one. So, here we go. Again, that run from Brennan Johnson, it is, first of all, into space. It's a channel run. But what it also does, most importantly, is it drags across the left back and it creates so much space for Jed Spence. Let's let it run. And we talk about Bella. Bella did spot the run, but it was too late. Jed Spence, with that positivity. You know, a lot of the time Steve Cooper gets called out for not showing positivity, but it's where that positivity is being shown. It's being shown in transition with that great run from Jed Spence. So that play has been made. The Birmingham defence is so narrow at this point. Zinkernagel, let's go back again. Zinkernagel knows what to do. We showed you that clip earlier on in the video. In this area, previously, he might have driven and gone for a shot himself, but he knows without even thinking that Jed Spence is on that overlap on that right-hand side. He finds him, and then Jed Spence, great finish from him. This isn't a coincidence. Think of Swansea last season. Connor Roberts was considered one of the best wing-backs in the Championship, if not the best, and that was down to Steve Cooper, who seems to have a great understanding and ability to coach this specific position. Now, I don't think Forest fans would forgive me if I didn't talk about Jed Spence for a second, because he has been so good since Steve Cooper has come in. Of course, as you've seen, the formation suits him a little bit, but the positivity that he's shown from someone who's been on loan, a 21-year-old as well, has been fantastic. The problem from a Forest perspective is that Jed Spence would seemingly fix a lot of problems for Middlesbrough, who have struggled in the fullback positions and have now got a manager in Chris Wilder who loves to play a back three. So far we've covered how Forest wingbacks allow their team to have that ample presence in midfield by having the positivity of those players to do both roles in terms of getting forward but also getting back and allowing that overload in central areas. We've also shown you a clip of playing quickly and playing with long balls and stretching the play. But by no means is Steve Cooper's side a long ball team. It's a very well coached team. Often, partially, I think, Swansea fans or fans in general were suggesting that Steve Cooper was very pragmatic and almost a defensive coach. But I think we can show you now that this is a team that wants to get the ball down and play. So this is a clip from a recent game against Preston, and Preston are pressing really well at the moment in this game. But what you see here is a Forest side that wants to keep the ball and almost wants to sort of suck in the opposition so that they can hurt them in transition. And that's a really brave risk and reward strategy. It's not the cleanest of play, and some people think that they're struggling here a little bit, but there's a confidence to it. It is risk and reward, and the ball is being played on the pitch. Yes, they're pressing well, but they're looking to pass and looking to work the ball up the pitch in moments by sucking in the opposition, almost giving them that chance to win the ball. And this is something that you saw in the Euros a lot through Italy. Gigi Donnarumma, a lot of the time, they were utilising him to kind of go from him and then work their way through the thirds. This is really brave play. Yes, there's a couple of bubbles and bounces that work out for them, but they could have just hit it long if they wanted to. They've got those forwards up there, but they want to play the ball through. And when they do get up there, look how many bodies they've moved up the pitch. This is a really positive and highly drilled way of playing under possession that is quite coy but can often be misunderstood. So to summarise, Steve Cooper has come in and offered up a complete tactical overhaul on this Forest side on a macro level and a micro level, and has been able to get results at the same time. The main issue for Forest is the January transfer window, and there's two sides to look at this. From one point of view, you have players like Brennan Johnson, who will be looked at by a lot of Premier League clubs, I would imagine. Jed Spence as well, and these are key players in this squad. The other side of it is the pulling power of Steve Cooper himself. He knows so many youngsters and has so many contacts that he could utilise, like he did at Swansea, that there could be a bit of a revolving door at Forest in the January transfer window, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of personnel they've got at the end of it. But even if no one moves in January, what we've seen here, with the right information, you've got a good squad here that could really challenge for the playoff places. So watch this space, and of course let me know how you feel. If you're a Nottingham Forest fan and you're watching this video, I want to know how you feel about your team. Are you impressed by Steve Cooper so far? Do you see them getting into the playoffs? And who is the key man for you? Let me know in the comments below. If you've enjoyed this video, check out all the deep dives and the great interviews that we've got on the channel as well. And make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.